On this episode of Infinity Sports, we're going to be giving our draft grades. We did our mock draft last time you guys heard from us. And this time we're going to be grading the real team's picks because we know more than they do. So we're going to be assigning those grades to them. And a little bit of a story about that right after the intro here.
Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Drives one out to deep left field. This one's got a chance to get out of here. Gone! Three-run Jimmy Jack first big league home run for Mike Trout.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
And an 81-point game. 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Wayne G, Infinity Sports, joined by Sully.
Hey, how we doing, man?
You may notice there's two people instead of three people. And let's just say if you guys are tuning in for Nick, sorry about that. I doubt you are, but if you were, just a difference, creative differences, we'll call it. We wanted to talk about the NFL. We felt like an entire episode was dedicated to the NFL draft because there's 32 teams. It's going to take a little while. And other people wanted to talk about postponed European soccer games. And yeah, just didn't work out that way. So,
yeah, I was assuming, I assume it was more than that, but it is what it is.
Yeah. We are going to be talking about the NFL draft, which happened this past weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Before we do, congrats to Sully, who got 9 out of 32 picks correct, the same as Todd McShay and Peter King, and double that of Mel Kiper.
Should have been 11. I'm not going to sit here and say excuses here, but when I copied and pasted my picks onto there, I put Penei Sewell in the wrong spot, and I put him at Miami and Jalen Waddle at Carolina, and didn't realize it, but it was supposed to be the other way around. So I would have gotten the first 8 picks exactly right. Zaven Collins, I think, was my big hit. I think, truthfully, I was one of the only mockers that actually had Zaven Collins going to Arizona. And that was a big one for me. I did really well this year. Also, if you guys watch the mock draft, I nailed the trade, pretty much to a T. I think I missed the 2022 fourth rounder going over there. I think that was the only part of the compensation I missed. And I remember you guys, giving me quite the earful about that trade, and look who was right.
Yeah. Well, only because I thought you should have accepted my trade first.
See, but again, I'm telling you, for one, it's pretty clear that New England was not in the quarterback market like we thought they were. They had no interest in moving up, from, a lot of what we heard. So, they were willing to take whatever fell to them at 15. So, and Chicago was one of those teams that, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just felt they were going to make a play this year. I think they understand that their roster's fairly close. So, why not go out there and get arguably, the third best player in the draft to some people. Not to me, but, he was the third best quarterback on the board, in my opinion. So,
well, we are going to be going in alphabetical order of city. So we're going to be starting with the Arizona Cardinals. I'll give my grade. I'll tell you why I'm doing that grade. Sully will give his grade and why. And I'm sure we'll have some disagreements. I explained to Sully early on that I graded this extremely harshly. Very few A's, more F's than A's. So,
oh yeah. Also, you told me we're not doing minus or plus grades. I
yes.
Totally didn't listen to that. So
I figured you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But which actually made it tough for me because there was some where I'm like, B, C. It's like a B minus, but I gave it a C.
That's why I truthfully, I did that for some teams still, but other teams I was like, no, it's a B minus because I can't call it a C, but I can't really give it a full B either. So,
definitely check us out on YouTube because we are going to be breaking this up into 32 different segments so that this is an alphabetical order. If you're listening for the Washington football team and you don't want to listen to all the way to the end, you don't want to skip to the end, go to YouTube. The video's there. Washington football team will be on its own. You can just watch our review of that.
Wayne's going to make it look fancy with the letter grades. I'm sure he's going to put some clips of some players in there too, guys. It's, Wayne's going to do what Wayne does, baby.
That's right. And check us out on Facebook at Infinity Sports Podcast, on Instagram at Infinity Sports Podcast, and on Twitter at Sports Infinity 5. Arizona Cardinals, I gave these guys a C. I did like the Rondale Moore pick in round 2. I'm looking to the side if everyone is watching this video. The Zaven Collins pick, I liked it, but I felt like, corner was a bigger need for them. I thought Caleb Farley might have been a better pick for them there instead of Zaven Collins. They didn't address running back or tight end at all. So I was like, C for them, because I like the Rondale Moore pick, I give him a C.
I give him a C as well. Again, linebacker in the first 2 years in a row, I don't love. Granted, they are two completely different linebackers, and they're going to do completely different things for Arizona. But again, it's such a low value position, and to invest in it that heavily just doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned, go out there and get a corner. Corners make infinitely more important plays on the field than your, 2-down linebacker does. So I didn't, as much as I love Zaven Collins, the football player, and as much as I actually like the pick, it's tough to give it a good grade. Because of value and then positional value. Zaven Collins was not the 16th best player on my board. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's tough to go grab him there. I love Rondale Moore. I love Tay Gowan, the corner they got in the 6th. Rarely are you going to find a guy in the 6th round that's possibly going to start for you. He has all the traits to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's just, can he put them all together kind of thing. So I didn't love their draft, but I didn't hate it. And I think Rondale Moore in that offense is going to be amazing. Yeah.
I do want to, before we get too far into it, I didn't mention that Sully and I's grading style is going to be a little bit different. I'm grading these guys based on whether or not they filled positional needs, and then secondarily, the value of the pick itself. I know Sully values the value of the pick more so than the need.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of draft philosophy with most people. Like, I've talked about it throughout this entire draft: positional value, and then actual value. If you draft for need, that's when you end up reaching for players and making bad picks, in my opinion, a la Las Vegas, but we'll get to that. Who else did that? New Orleans, Green Bay did that this year too. Reached to fill a need and not necessarily took the best value on the board. But again, it's going to all depend. For me, I don't love that. For you, you may love that. So, and that's where we're going to differentiate. But yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up.
The Atlanta Falcons are next in alphabetical order. I gave them a D. I do like the Kyle Pitts, obviously one of the best players on the board, a generational player, and it fills a need at tight end, which they needed, even though they have, I think, Hayden Hurst, right, went over there.
Yeah, they didn't accept his 5th-year option now, though. They didn't exercise his 5th-year option, but still, I mean, unless you got Travis, even if you got Travis Kelce, you're taking Kyle Pitts.
So where I kind of graded them low was really when we got into the later rounds, not even later, just later than the first round. Cornerback and linebacker are huge needs for them. They passed on both Asante Samuel Jr., they passed on Azeez Ojulari, and they took a safety, Richie Grant. So I didn't understand, because this, again, safety was not a position of need for them, and they had really good players on the board who did fill positions of need.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately for me, Kyle Pitts is really the only pick I like. I gave him a C. I didn't really – it's tough for me to hate the draft because you do get Kyle Pitts. I do think Jalen Mayfield in the 3rd. I think he's got a real shot to start at guard from day one. But outside of that, I don't love it. Richie Grant, I actually love as a football player, but man, over Trevon Moehrig, over Javon Holland, you know what I mean? Over these other guys that I think, are much better players, I don't love. So yeah, I gave it a C. So it's not a draft that I'm going to be like bounding the table for, but I mean, Kyle Pitts may be arguably the most impactful player in the league this year. So.
The Baltimore Ravens are next. I gave them a B. And the only issue I really had, so I liked the Rashad Bateman pick. Obviously, you got to get a weapon out there because Marquise Brown can't do it all by himself. And even as he's really more of a secondary option, I feel like. Not that Rashad Bateman's a straight up one, but you need help. And so they got help. I liked that. The Jason Owe pick, or what was it, Adelphi Owe now?
His name's Jason, but he's going by his. I think it's where's he from? Liberia?
I'm not sure.
He's from one of the African nations, so I know he's going to take on his African first name now, I believe. So.
He's a tremendous talent, and obviously he could be huge, but I didn't like it because I felt like they had bigger positions of need. They traded away Orlando Brown, to get that first round pick, and they put a defensive end in there. I mean, Samuel Cosme was there. I know he went in the second round. Tevin Jenkins was there. I thought he would have been a good fit there. They do get a guard in round 3. I like the Ben Cleveland pick. I think that's a really good pick for them. I just wish they had addressed the offensive line with that second first-round pick. But all in all, Sean Wade at 5, I think is going to be a great slot corner for them. So I felt like getting him in the 5th-round pick, getting Bateman, getting Cleveland. Overall, I gave him a B.
They got an A, and it was really close to an A+ for me. Jason Owe is the definition of a freak. I mean, he ran a 4.38. You know, he's got an insane shuttle count, 3.84 shuttle, which, I mean, anything under 7 is insane for a corner, let alone a defensive lineman. A 40-inch vert at 6'5", 260. I mean, he is. And if one thing that Baltimore does, it's develop edge rushers. So I do love the pick. They had to replace Judon. So, I mean, I actually think it was a need. I had edge as one of their higher needs. And again, the whole positional value thing for me, an edge is far more important than, you know, I guess other things on the board. Not a tackle. But, and this does factor into the grade, in my opinion, they did go out and sign Villanueva to be their replacement for Orlando Brown. So obviously they had a plan. They knew that, I think. So tackle, I don't think, is a huge need. Also, they got Ardarius Washington, the TCU safety, as an undrafted free agent signing. I think he starts at slot corner before Sean Wade does, and they drafted Sean Wade at 5. They pick players who are such perfect fits for their team. I just love it. Ben Cleveland is an absolute mauler in the run game. That kid is going to bulldoze people. So I like that pick a lot. Again, they just had a great draft. And I count the Villanueva signing in the whole draft process, so that's why they're getting a solid A for me.
The only concern I had with Owe, again, like you said, freak talent, super athlete, right? Is he's so raw, and the initial comparison when you think is Ravens, you're going to think Terrell Suggs, right? Just fast off the edge, but Terrell Suggs had 22 sacks in college. You know, Owe had 1.5. You know, so that's my concern there.
Jason Owe wasn't used as a pass rusher at Penn State, though, which is what was unfortunate. He was dropped back into coverage and played like actual linebacker, not a rush linebacker. So again, if you look at his actual rush snaps, he was very productive. So that's kind of what you have to go by, not his overall stat line.
All right.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills, I gave them a C. Gregory Rousseau, who's going to do a little ad for us here, if you've seen the ad, or if you'll hear it at the end of the show as well. Gregory Rousseau, we're fans of his now, and he went in the first round. Fills a big need for them at defensive end. What puzzled me with them is then taking Carlos Basham in round 2. Like, you just took a defensive end in round 1, and again, needs that need to be filled. Offensive tackle, Jalen Mayfield's there. You know, they take Spencer Brown in round 3. You know, they could have gotten a running back in round 3, defensive tackle, which, again, they didn't fill either one of those positions in the draft.
Yeah, I gave this one a D. I did not love the Bills draft. Outside of Rousseau, which, you know, I had mocked to the Bucs, so I was damn near close. Ooh, I thought he was going there. He's just a versatile guy who I like, super long, super strong at the point of attack. If you look back at his film, he actually succeeded more on the inside. So I think they were thinking, okay, we'll play him as like a strong side DN, kind of like a Jadeveon Clowney, essentially, kind of thing. Because I don't think he's going to be a speed rusher off the edge. It's not his game. Well, then you go and draft Carlos Basham, who's the exact same player. Carlos Basham plays at like 285. Like, he's going to be a strong defensive end that succeeds more on the inside. It just didn't make sense to me. Oh, you know what else they did? They drafted the same guy in the second round last year in AJ Epinesa, who's that same exact build and player. So it's like, I just don't know what they're doing there in Buffalo. They needed a coverage or an off-ball linebacker pretty bad. They didn't get one. They needed a tackle and offensive line depth pretty bad. I don't love what they got in Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle. I don't think they needed running back help, but they could have easily added one later on. I don't hate Zach Moss and
Singletary.
Devin Singletary. I'm a big fan of Devin Singletary. I just think they need to give him the ball more. But you know, it's just, I don't know, for a team that's so close, and not knowing who you like the Chicago Bears know exactly what their roster is. They went out and got a quarterback. They know we got a window, things like that. teams that know they have a window and built. Kansas City, like, loved their draft in their offseason. They knew exactly what they needed to do. We've got a window. Let's go attack that window. I don't see that here from Buffalo. Like, they've got a window right now with Josh Allen and their team, and they didn't go out and add any kind of impacted player. Like, I don't think either of those edge guys they drafted have the ability to, like, start and be an impact from day one. They're both going to be, like, rotational players for me. So I don't love that.
Right. I understand what you're saying about the window, too, because if I'm Buffalo, I'm thinking, New England's got a rookie quarterback now or Cam, but, Mac Jones is going to be ready to start next year at the least. You've got Tua's going to be in year 3 next year. This is the year for Buffalo to win the AFC East and get deep into the playoffs.
100%. And it's not just that. It's, Josh Allen's coming up on that mega deal here soon. And once you pay him $50 million a year, it's tough to build a team around. So, you've got to do that now. Stephon Diggs' window is going to close. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to, like, they've got 3 years now where they've, like, prime team. And I don't see how Gregory Rousseau and Carlos Basham get them over the hump, essentially. Like, both are great players. Both are going to be solid players, I think. But do they get them over the hump? I don't see that.
The Carolina Panthers are my dad's favorite team, and I gave them a C for their draft. J.C. Horn does fill a need, and he's arguably the best corner. You could have gone Surtain, but they're very closely rated. The offensive line was really a bigger need, I felt like, and the fact that you had Rashawn Slater there, you could have taken him, and you went with a corner instead. You could have gotten a corner later, I feel like. The other thing I really liked, I like Terrence Marshall. I love Terrence Marshall, actually, as a wide receiver. I didn't like him in that spot because, again, defensive end's a bigger need, and Basham was there. You could have gotten Carlos Basham in the Carolina Panthers, and he would have been a better fit there. Round 3, they still haven't addressed the offensive line yet, and they take a tight end. Wyatt Davis was there. You have so many opportunities to address the offensive line, and you didn't address it in the first 3 rounds.
Well, they did. They actually took Brady Christensen before Tommy Tremble with their first third-round pick. But I actually kind of agree with you. I was more in the Rashawn Slater boat than I was in the J.C. Horn boat. But I did say, so J.C. Horn's skill set is something that's coveted by teams now. And, true press man corners are incredibly difficult to find. And that's what J.C. Horn does, and that's what J.C. Horn does extremely well. So, I knew he was going to go early. I actually placed a prop that he was going to be the first defensive player taken. Shout out to my dog, William James, man. My dude was hollering at me all night to place bets for him, and we ended up profiting like $8K in bets. So it was a pretty sweet night. I nailed – obviously the Zaven Collins pick was huge. I nailed the Jalen Waddle pick. That's how I've got proof that it was in my actual real draft because he placed a $2,000 bet on it. Boy, it was nuts. But yeah, it was a fun night. But I don't know. I gave him a B-. It would have been higher, except why not take Justin Fields there at 7? And I'm going to say that for any team that was at 7, 8, 9. Why not take Justin Fields at that point? So I'm going to knock you for passing on him there because I don't think Sam Darnold should stop you from taking a Justin Fields, I guess, is my opinion. So I don't love that. Now I get they're building behind Sam Darnold. They invested a 2nd-round pick. So they've got to get behind that. But I do like Marshall. I like Brady Christensen. I like Tommy Tremble. I like Chuba Hubbard. I like Davion Nixon. I like Deontay Brown a lot. I think Deontay Brown starts at guard tomorrow. So there's a lot to like about the draft.
I think Chuba Hubbard's one of those guys that I actually look at as, one of the reasons you shouldn't take a running back in the first round is because a guy like that is in the 4th round, and I think he's going to be an impact player because I wouldn't expect anything less than Christian McCaffrey to get hurt and only play about 9 games.
And I think about where Chuba Hubbard would have went if he came out last year. He was easily the number 1 back, and everybody loved him, and this and that. And then he comes out and has a terrible year, and goes in the 4th round now. And that's where running backs should go. I mean, that's just their value, unfortunately.
Wait till we get to the Steelers. I have some harsh stuff for them.
Oh, bro, they're one of the few teams that got a terrible grade.
The Chicago Bears, I gave these guys an A. They traded up. They get Justin Fields. what a fantastic pick. Chicago has not had a good quarterback in a couple of decades at least. And I think that this guy, I'm a huge Justin Fields fan. We've been talking about it for over a year now. I actually liked him over Trevor Lawrence way back. I mean, I love Justin Fields. Yeah. But I mean, you go and you get him. I think he's your quarterback of the future. I think he could even start right away. They're saying Andy Dalton will start, but I think it won't be long. I think Justin Fields will be in there. There's gonna be a lot of fans rooting for it. That defense is still top notch. Round 2, they get a protector with Tevin Jenkins. We talked about he's just an absolute monster. So now he's going to be protecting your quarterback. Really, the two biggest needs, they didn't draft again until like the 4th or 5th round, but your two biggest needs, quarterback, tackle, you could dress them in the first 2 picks, and they were great picks.
Agreed. They got an A+ from me. Yeah. I mean, to move up 9 spots, I mean, you're going to give up, your future first, but you would think with that roster and depending on how well Justin Herbert plays, you may have a year of learning, curve right there. And I think Minnesota got better. So, but they're probably going to end up, not picking in the top 10. And so you got to think, okay, well, it's a solid, thing to give up 20 and, whatever to move up to 11 or to 11 is a great move for them. Tevin Jenkins is a home run as well. Graham, the corner they drafted in, I believe it was the 6th, has the ability to start. So, I mean, he's got 3 years of great tape and probably shouldn't have lasted this long, but he was an opt-out. And so, he gets forgotten about. Khalil Herbert in the 6th, legit has a shot to produce over there and be that pass-catching threat that they love. So I love what Chicago did with their draft, which is odd for me to say because I don't think I've said that in a long time.
Well, they haven't had a really good draft in a long time. Huh?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Tevin Jenkins and Justin Fields at the top is an absolute home run grand slam. Those 2 picks alone would have made this draft, incredible. So,
the Cincinnati Bengals, I gave these guys a C. Like anybody, I was perplexed with them going with Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell. Your quarterback, who you took number 1 overall last year, was getting sacked at an unprecedented clip last year. It led to him getting injured last year. And unfortunately, he's going to be ready for the start of the season, but you might have been without him for at least the first half of the season if it was a true, like really messed up injury like we thought it was going to be. So you don't protect him. You get him a wide receiver. And then I think you could have gone Penei Sewell there and taken Terrence Marshall, another LSU guy, in the 2nd round. And then they're still buddies, whatever. But yeah, so I put defensive end was a need. I do like the Joseph Asai draft in round 3. But yeah, back-to-back defensive rounds, defensive ends in round 3 didn't make sense to me. So there was some puzzling stuff. The only reason they get a C instead of like a D or an F is because Jamar Chase is phenomenal. But it should have been Penei Sewell there.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think now, obviously, Joe Burrow had a lot to do with this pick. And you've got to think Joe Burrow said, yo, I want Jamar Chase. Also, like I kept saying, the Bengals don't really need a tackle. They don't. They've got, Jonah Williams out there at left tackle, which they love. And they just signed Riley Reif to $14 million, who Joe Burrow personally took to dinner and convinced him to play in Cincinnati. So I don't think they thought their need at tackle was high. Therefore, they decided, let's strengthen the wide receiver corps. Now, they do go out and get Jackson Carman in the 3rd, I think it was. Nope, they got Jackson Carman in the 2nd. He's going to start at guard for them. So I think that's like kind of their plan. We're going to go out and get Jamar Chase, and then in the 2nd, we'll get our guard/tackle convert because Jackson will start at guard, and then more than likely after Riley Reif gets let go after a year, they move him out to tackle. So I didn't hate it. I gave him a B+. Because Chase is going to start, Carmen's going to start, Osai, Sample, and Tyler Shelvin, I all love along the defensive line. And I actually think they all have the ability to rotate, make some kind of impact at that point. So I actually liked their draft. I didn't hate it.
I give a lot of negative grades to people for passing on my guy Wyatt Davis in the 3rd round. So in this case, again, they took back-to-back defensive ends in the 3rd round. They need guard help. You could have gotten Wyatt Davis.
Yeah, they could have. I mean, again, I think now. Granted, I think they needed multiple positions along the front, so just taking Jackson Carman doesn't solve any problems, in my opinion. But I mean, I do think they were very comfortable with their evaluation at guard, and like what Jackson Carman can do. And I don't disagree. I'm a big Jackson Carman fan. So
the Cleveland Browns, I gave these guys a B. 4 out of their first 5 picks filled needs. I liked Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah, right? Getting him in round 2. We had him trading up potentially to get him in round 1. I guess it came out that he had kind of a heart issue, which is why he fell. But they said the doctor cleared him; he's fine. But that's why he fell. But I think that's a great get in round 2. Anthony Schwartz, the wide receiver, he's a track star. He runs 100 meters in 10.09 seconds. He's going to be a blazer on the outside, so I think that's going to help free up Landry a little bit more on the inside. Overall, though, yeah, I like their pick. I liked what do I have here? They could have moved up a few picks to get Amari Rodgers or Nico Collins, who I think were higher rated than Schwartz. But again, I like Schwartz speed. So overall, I thought B is good for them.
Oh, it's easily A+. It's probably my favorite draft in the whole thing. Greg Newsom's a smash knockout of the park. I mean, he's a stud. I don't know how he lasted to 26. I thought he was going to go much earlier just because corners go early. And then to get JOK at 52, who was legitimately in play at 26, is an absolute fleece. I'll never understand how he lasted that long, a heart issue or not. Tommy Tagai is going to start tomorrow for that football team and is a legit pass rusher from the inside, which there were maybe 3 in this whole draft, and they got one. Then not just that, then they signed Marvin Wilson as an undrafted free agent. So I think, granted, he has terrible tape this last year, but the year before he was easily a top 5 defensive tackle in the class. So I think they did absolute amazing. They went into the free agency without really needs to fill, and it was more or less just taking players. So again, they were able to take the best value that was on the board at the time, and they crushed it, in my opinion. Absolutely crushed it.
Yeah. Well, that's like I said, as a harsh grader, I give a lot of Bs.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, when you get my what did I have JOK finished at? Let me look. JOK finishes my 13th overall player on my big board, and they got him at 52.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, that's anytime that happens, I'm going to love your draft. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm absolutely going to love it. In our mock, I had the Browns trading up to 20 to get him. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then they ended up getting him, at 52 or whatever it is. It's like, I mean, that's just an absolute fleece in my opinion. So.
The Dallas Cowboys get a C for me. They trade down 2 picks. They get Micah Parsons, who I think is a huge, great pick for them. Great pick. Kelvin Joseph at corner in round 2. So again, they needed a corner. They get one in round 2. I think Kelvin Joseph is fine. Jabril Cox, I think, could be a steal round 4 pick. Although he plays the same position as Micah Parsons, they're both inside linebackers. And I think that doesn't Dallas run a 4-3, not a 3-4. So I don't know how that works out. And then they don't really address the safety position or tight end, but I don't really care about any teams that didn't address the tight end position because I don't really care about it unless you're the New England Patriots. So I went with the C. Again, Parsons, just like Kyle Pitts, great talent, and you get him at 12. You can't really be upset with that.
They got a C- for me. I wanted to give him a D, but I don't know if I could because, I mean, you got to love Micah Parsons as a talent, but I mean, they got Leighton Vander Esch. They got Jalen Smith, who they just gave a massive contract to. They just signed Keanu Neal to play linebacker. So what the fuck did you go and draft 2 linebackers for? Makes no sense whatsoever to me. I won't understand it. Plus, it's not a high value position. I love Micah Parsons. I think he's a stud. I think he's great. Obviously, their plans blew up in their face. They wanted J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. One didn't fall, so then they panic, moved back 2 spots. Still didn't know who to take at 12. I think Rashawn Slater would have been a much better pick there because, again, positional value. I don't love the value of drafting an inside linebacker at 12. I think it's a wasted pick. So there's obviously going to be that hurt for them, or that knock for them for me. But I do like Kelvin Joseph. Nashawn Wright, though. What? Have you seen this kid?
No.
Bro, he's 6'4", 180 pounds. So he's Kevin Durant playing corner. And I think he had a 1.69 10-yard split, which I'm telling you right now, Wayne, I'd run a 1.69 10-yard split. Like a 1.69 10-yard split in your 40 is awful. He had I think 8 3-cone. Like, he just doesn't have movement skills. I don't love the pick in the 4th round. I don't know. I didn't like a lot of their draft. So, yeah, C-.
Well, you see, Vander Esch, they're not picking up his 5th-year option.
Yeah, I get it because he can't stay on the field. But I mean, like again, if you're a team that's consistently investing in the linebacker position, you're not going to win a lot of championships, in my opinion. It's not an important position. Like you need, yeah, I get it. Like this is coming from a guy whose favorite player is Devin White. But like in reality, outside of maybe like now, granted he's special, so. But like outside of like generational talents, which I guess Micah Parsons is, but then why go draft Jabril Cox? Why sign Keanu Neal? Why give Jalen Smith a $40 million contract? Like, I don't know. I just don't like what they do. So,
all right. The Denver Broncos, I gave an F. Is this my first F? I think I gave. I mean, well, Patrick Surtain's great. I mean, I love that he fits a need for them, but their 3 biggest needs, which were quarterback, inside linebacker, and center, they don't address at all at any point in the draft. I mean, you could have gotten Fields there. You could have gotten Dickerson in the 2nd round. That would have made more sense to me than getting a cornerback and then not addressing really any other needs.
Man, I gave Denver a B, and it would have been an A, except they didn't take Justin Fields. But so Vic Fangio, it's pretty tough to go like against what he does and his system. And I'll tell you what, Patrick Surtain is an ideal cornerback for his system. I understand they just went and signed, Ronald Darby and things like that. But I mean, that's on a 1-year deal. And if Ronald Darby stops you from taking a Patrick Surtain, you're doing it wrong. Jamar Johnson is an absolute steal in the 5th round. I had him as my 2nd best safety, I think. Oh no, 3rd best safety. And, I mean, to get him in the 5th is just massive for them, I think. Javonte Williams was arguably the number 1 running back in the draft. So to get him in round 2, I don't hate. Quinn Miners from Wisconsin Whitewater was my 2nd rated center in the draft behind Landon Dickerson. So I like that pick. Baron Browning, I think, has the ability to be an elite pass rusher. He's listed as a middle linebacker, but he won't play there. He was a liability in coverage, and he's really just a pass rushing specialist, and teams have told him that. But again, I liked what they did a lot. They got a B for me, and that's really just because how do you not take Justin Fields at 9?
Because you believe in Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater.
Bruh.
Which somebody had said something to the fact of, I read a story that said that they might play them in tandem. And I said, well, the old adage is if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you don't have any starting quarterbacks.
Yep. Unless you're in college.
All right.
But, I mean, that's a different game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The Detroit Lions, I gave them a D.
What?
Yeah. Again, Penei Sewell is a great. The fact that he fell down there is fantastic for them. But again, he doesn't fit one of their bigger needs. Wide receiver was a bigger need. Devontae Smith was still on the board. I think that would have made more sense to go there. Inside linebacker was another need for them. They don't address that until round 4. They could have had Micah Parsons. It makes more sense again than Penei Sewell, even though he's not whatever. No defensive ends taken in the entire draft. A defensive end was a need for them. So again, they didn't really address any of their needs, even though they did get a great talent in Penei Sewell.
See, I hate this whole needs thing. I think you should look for upgrades at positions, not necessarily where can you fill a need? Where can you upgrade at a position? And Detroit's a team that I think understands who they are. They are going to win maybe 4 ball games all year. They're more than likely picking in the top 5 next year. Let's build a team. Let's go out and build through the trenches and build, how you're supposed to, in my opinion, with key positions. And that's exactly what they did. They got an A for me. I loved their draft. Penei Sewell, it doesn't matter if you have a need at tackle, which they do have a need at tackle. Outside of Taylor Decker, they don't really have anything. So for one, he can start a tackle, he can start a guard, so it doesn't matter. They've got a need. And the first thing you need to do is protect. So Penei Sewell, Levi Onwuzurike and Aleem McNeil. I absolutely loved both picks. Aleem McNeil, I liked a little more because you got him in round 3 and I had him ranked higher than Levi Onwuzurike anyway. So obviously I love that pick. And then Afatu Melifanu is a 6'2" long, strong, talented cornerback who's going to start and be physical for them. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is a wide receiver who has the ability to play great and exceed his expectations because he does have that high ceiling, but he's also a a hard-nosed player. He's going to block for you. And their head coach, Dan Campbell, came out and said, look, we want to get more physical. That's what we want. They came out in this draft, and I believe they achieved that goal in getting more physical. And I loved everything they did. So hugely great draft for me.
I read an article that said that McNeil is the reason for the awkward fist bump in the Eagles draft room.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's who
they wanted.
That's what they wanted. They traded down, so they missed out on him.
Yeah, so they missed him. And I'm telling you right now, I think a lot of teams are going to regret passing on him. He was a running back in high school. The boy can move like laterally and like is an absolute horse. I mean, he's gonna be an issue in the run game for a lot of teams. So I had his comp at Vita Vea, a poor man's Vita Vea, because he's not that high end pass rusher that Vita Vea is from the inside. But I mean, I think he's going to be a great player. All right.
The Green Bay Packers, I gave them a C. I like Eric Stokes. I think he fills a need for them. I know, was it Amari Rodgers, round 3? I think that's a great pick to get a receiver. Again, he's not the big receiver, but Rashad Bateman had already gone before in round 1. So at round 1, the best receiver on the board is Elijah Moore, who's a second-round receiver. So like you said, you don't want to reach to fill that need. So I think that Stokes fills a need better than Elijah Moore did. I didn't understand maybe because why Josh Myers was taken over Creed Humphrey. I mean, do you think that he's the better center between the two? Or
no? I gave the Green Bay Packers an F. I don't know how you can look at these drafts and think the Green Bay Packers did better than the Lions. Yeah, quarterback's a need, but you took a guy who is like 63rd on boards at 30 or at 28. Like that's that. You talk about reaching for a guy. That's exactly what they did. They reached for Eric Stokes, and he doesn't even fit their system. Then they take a wide receiver in Amari Rodgers that doesn't fit their system. The guy ran 3 routes, literally 3 routes in college. That's it. Never ran more than 3 routes. A bubble screen, a slant, and a go were the only 3 routes he ran in college. So it's like that pick makes no sense to me. Josh Myers ahead of Quinn Miners, ahead of Creed Humphrey, doesn't make sense to me. He was not good at all. Go watch him against Christian Barmore and tell me you feel comfortable with him blocking NFL defensive linemen, because he gets embarrassed. I mean, that tape he hopes burns so he can never show his children that. Like, he gets embarrassed, and it just, I don't know, it just nothing of what they did made sense. No player they drafted actually fit their team. I don't know. For a team like Baltimore, who literally they'll take guys who exactly fit their scheme. And then you see a team like Green Bay, who historically has done great with Ted Thompson. Now, this GM is more than likely out the door, because I'm assuming you're going to pick your quarterback over your GM, is just, I think, failing right now horribly at what he's doing.
The Houston Texans, I gave them an F. They only had 5 picks starting in round 3 because they traded away all their picks. And their first pick in round 3 was Davis Mills, which I understand. Maybe maybe Deshaun Watson doesn't play right away or at all this year because of everything going on. But Davis Mills isn't going to be the guy that starts for you, So I mean, it just didn't make any sense. And so then I did like the Nico Collins pick, 26th in the 3rd round. But that's it. The rest of their picks, it made no sense to me.
Yeah, they got a big old F. If I could have done a lower grade than an F, Houston would have gotten it, honestly. They just don't understand how to build a franchise and how to build a team. They just don't know what's going on. They've got 5 picks, and they have the worst roster in the entire NFL. So you need help along every position, essentially. And to start, you take a quarterback who will not start because they're going to start Tyrod Taylor. I mean, let's be real. That's who they're going to start. He's ready to play. He's a guy who's going to play and at least do whatever for them. So then you're hoping then what? Davis Mills gets in later on, shows some promise, and you trade him for a pick? Like, is that the plan? Because you're going to be drafting in the top 5 next year. You're going to be taking a quarterback in the top 5 next year. So this 3rd round pick, you literally lit on fire. Like Like, it made no sense to me. Now, I have preached that quarterbacks hold their value more than any other position, so maybe he does show some promise and you move him, but, like, that's not a reason to take a guy when your roster is so empty. And I like the Nico Collins pick, but you traded up 4 of them and got the worst trade value in the history of the draft, or in the history of the last 3 drafts for that one pick. The worst trade EV in the last 3 years for a third-round pick for a team that needs every pick so bad. It's like, I don't understand it with Houston. I really don't.
Maybe it wasn't just Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't. Nick Caserio, you got to step it up, bro. You got big shoes to fill, and you ain't filling them.
The Indianapolis Colts, I gave them a C. They did address all 5 positions of need in the draft. I don't get the Deo Adiengbo in round 2 after taking Kwity Paye in round 1. I felt like they should have gotten a receiver there, maybe Terrence Marshall or a tight end like Pat Freemuth. That was the second round pick I didn't understand, but overall I gave them a C because they addressed all 5 positions, or biggest 5 positions of need.
I got a C as well. I love Kwity Paye. Outside of that, I don't really like much of the draft. I wish they would have addressed wide receiver because I think that's a pretty enormous need for them. I don't trust T.Y. Hilton, and I don't want Michael Pittman as my number 1. So,
Pascal. Yeah,
Zach Pascal out there, ball in. So I would have probably gone after the wide receiver position there. Again, I'm going to, I have Elijah Moore as, I think the 25th ranked player overall. So, I would have taken him at quite a few spots that we've talked about here. I thought he was going to the Packers for sure. For sure. So for them to not address that was wild, but yeah, nothing great here, but nothing like, I ain't mad at him.
Yeah. Jacksonville Jaguars, I gave them a B. Again, they get Trevor Lawrence, best player in the draft, generational talent at quarterback, which was their area of, well, according to ESPN, it was their biggest area of need, but I think that's an exaggeration maybe because they were drafting 1 overall. I don't think Gardner Minshew is that bad, but obviously he's not Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think that was their biggest area of need. I didn't understand the Travis Etienne pick at 25. Just to pair him with his buddy from college, it didn't make any sense to me. You've got James Robinson already. Why don't you get Tevin Jenkins, a guy who can protect Trevor Lawrence? Why don't you get, Trevon Moehrig? You need a safety, but they go out and they get a running back, which aside from the whole don't draft running backs in the first round, even if you did draft running backs in the first round, it's not an area of need. Why are you taking that with your second first round pick?
They got an A for me. Their first 6 picks, I'm a huge fan of, honestly. I think they did extremely well. Obviously, I'm never going to be the running back in the first round camp. I do think, Travis Etienne, maybe not the exception to the rule, but he's going to get 8 to 9 catches a game, I think. So I think that's going to be his role when James Robinson is going to get, 20 carries a game. So I think that's kind of why. Now, granted, I agree they probably shouldn't have taken him there. If you go Greg Newsome, oh no, Greg Newsome was gone there, wasn't he? I'm trying to think. No, he wasn't. No, he went the pick right after to Cleveland. So if they go, Greg Newsome there, and then in Travis Etienne at 33. I love the draft instead of taking then it'd be an A+. I don't love the Tyson Campbell pick, only because, they've got CJ Henderson, they signed Shaquille Griffin. Tyson Campbell is not playing in the slot, but I don't think you can, I'm always in the camp of getting more corners. Walker Little has a chance to start from day 1. Andre Sisco is probably the best pure free safety in the draft. Now he's going to take a lot of risk, but the guy can cover. He's got range for days. And then Jay Tufale is probably going to start for them. So, it's like, it's really tough to hate the draft when they've got, I think, 6 true impact players right there. So that's why I like it. Now, granted, it's easier to have an impact draft when your roster's terrible and a lot of players are going to start. But still, if this is understanding your roster and understanding you need talent and getting guys who are ready to produce and give you an impact in day 1. And I think that's what they got.
Right. I think for me, again, because I wasn't doing pluses and minuses. So just looking at B and A, I couldn't give them the A just because I was so perplexed by the 25th pick. I just, like you said, 33 makes sense for him, but I didn't understand that 25 when there are other needs that are more important than running back, because all you're looking for is a receiving running back, and that's it. I mean, Laviska Shenault did that last year. You play him out of the backfield.
Yeah, but now they've got another one. Again, with Urban Meyer coming in, you got to think this offense is going to spread out. This offense is going to get fast. There's going to be motions. Think of now what they can do with James Robinson in the backfield, Laviska Shenault and Travis Etienne, and then they go out and motion all these guys out and move them out of the backfield, and you're stuck with your middle linebacker covering Travis Etienne, or even worse, a linebacker covering Laviska. You're going to be in a lot of problems there. So they're going to try to create mismatch nightmares, and I like that. I agree, 33 is a better spot, though.
Kansas City Chiefs, I had gave them a C. They traded their first round pick for Orlando Brown, which is a great trade. They needed offensive line help, so you have him with Joe Thuney. I think is great. The Nick Bolton pick, it wasn't an area of need, but he's a really good player. And then Creed Humphrey at center, again, addressing the offensive line. So I really think Kansas City did a great job in the whole offseason addressing their offensive line issues. And I think that CEH is going to love it next year, and I think Patrick Mahomes is really going to love it. But like I said, despite Bolton and Creed being really great players, I felt like, and great value, neither one of them filled an immediate need.
Oh, I disagree. I got a B. Again, not great, but just impact players. Guys who are Nick Bolton's going to start day one and will start at middle linebacker for them, which was a position of need, I think, in my opinion. And then Creed Humphrey will more than likely, he's pro ready. He's ready to start day one. He's been a starter at Oklahoma for a while. He's got his technique down. Granted, he may need a year to adjust, but he's more than likely going to be their starting center next year. So again, this is a team that, like I said, understands their window, understands what they have in front of them. Go protect Patrick Mahomes. Go get Orlando Brown. So I mean, let's put it this way. Whatever tackle they were getting at 31 was not going to have the same impact Orlando Brown will for that team. So immediately they get an uptick there, in my opinion. So I liked what they did in the offseason.
The LA Chargers, I gave them an A. I think this might be my first A. And the reason I give them an A is because their biggest need was
on Vegas, but
is it Las Vegas over Los Angeles?
LAS.
LA.
LOS.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was going on the ESPN ticker trying to write down the teams. All right, cool. So Las Vegas, then. I'll give it a C. Offensive tackle was their number one need. They get Alex Leatherwood, who does fill that need, but they did kind of reach for him. And my take on it, and I talked about this when we were doing our mock draft, right, is that I really like Alex Leatherwood. I don't want to crap on him. I think he's a really good player. I just feel like you can get him later if that's the guy that you really want. So don't take him there. Trade back if that's really what you want to do. I like Trevon Moehrig there with it's the 11th pick in the second round. Great pick. I don't mind that at all. Outside linebacker in round 3 with Malcolm Kuntz. Again, not an area of need. Diami Brown at wide receiver. So they lose Nelson Aguilar. They don't really have. What do they have? Hunter Renfrow is like their top.
They didn't get Diami Brown.
I thought they did. Oh no, they should have taken Diami Brown. Okay.
Yeah.
Or Elijah Molden at corner. I like, but so in that first round pick, again, I know Alex Leatherwood fits your biggest need, which is left tackle or offensive tackle, because maybe he plays right tackle. But I don't know. I just feel like you're drafting that high and you got a guy like Bateman still on the board. I think that would have made more sense than if you're going to stick there, than the tackle.
Yeah. I gave him a C as well. I mean, shit, you switch Trevon Moehrig and Alex Leatherwood, and I actually like the draft a lot more. But yeah, I agree. If Tom Cable has come out and said Alex Leatherwood was our number one offensive tackle, we would have taken him ahead of Penei Sewell.
Okay.
So I mean, now I think that's where you're overconfident in your evaluations. But if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. So I agree with you, though. If that's your take, and yet the consensus around the league is that Christian Darrisaw, is more than likely going to go before Alex Leatherwood, and we saw Christian Darrisaw go at 20 whatever it was, to Minnesota, 23 to Minnesota. Why not move back and grab Alex Leatherwood? I agree, but again, it does fill a need. After that, not much to love, not a lot to really not like either, though. So just to see.
Okay. Now we're on to the Chargers, and I gave them an A. And again, Rashawn Slater, biggest need was offensive tackle. Great tackle there. With their first 4 picks, they addressed 4 of their biggest needs, and I really, really like the Larry Roundtree draft in the 6th round. Again, another, I think, good running back who you're going to get in a late round that's going to contribute right away. Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, wide receiver Josh Palmer. And I like the draft all around. There really wasn't a whole lot I didn't like.
Yeah, they got an A for me as well. Rashawn Slater's an incredible get for them at 13. Perfect instance of value, need, and positional value all lining up and creating a perfect storm there. I love Asante Samuel in the 2nd round. He is going to be used perfectly. Think Casey Hayward in his first year is coming out. Think Jason Verrett in his first year is coming out. He's going to be a stud slot corner. He just fits that scheme extremely well. And then Josh Palmer, I like as well. He's an extremely well-rounded wide receiver. I think he can come in and produce from day one. And I think actually give, Keenan Allen some help over there, along with, Mike Williams. So I like what they're doing over there in Los Angeles, man. They're building a team, baby.
The other Los Angeles team, the Rams, I gave them an F. They did not have a 1st round pick because they traded that to get Matthew Stafford, which I think is going to pay off. But I'm looking at who they took, and it's was it their center, offensive tackle, not addressed. And if your biggest needs going into the draft is offensive line help, and your quarterback is Matthew Stafford, who gets hurt a lot, you probably should address your offensive line. And so they didn't really do that, so I gave them an F.
Man, I did as well, actually. I hated every pick in this draft. There isn't a single one I'm like, yep, that was a good pick. I talk about Devontae Smith and I don't love his weight at 166 and don't love the fact that he's, and don't think he has the ability to succeed in the NFL at 166. Tutu Atwell, their 1st round pick, weighed 149 pounds at his medical combine. 149 pounds. You cannot play in the NFL at 149 pounds. You can't. I'm sorry. I don't care how quick, fast, or good you are. And he's not. He plays extremely quick and fast, but his times were terrible. So I don't know. I hated every pick in the draft. I don't know. I'm going to talk about this a lot. Teams understanding their window and things like that. This is a team that did not understand its window whatsoever. They are, one of the Super Bowl favorites. Go out there and invest in the offensive line. Invest in key positions that have impact and I didn't see that at all.
The Miami Dolphins, I gave them a B. They get Jalen Waddle with their 1st round pick. And I think when they traded back and then they traded back up again to 6, I really think that they were hoping they would get Jamar Chase there, that he would fall past Cincinnati, who would take a tackle, or in an ideal world that Pitts would fall to 6, which he didn't. But I think those were their first 2 choices. I really think that Waddle, even though they're saying that was their first choice, I think he was their 3rd choice there. But he's still a great player, and they get him, defensive end, outside linebacker, pass rushers, a need for them. They get Jalen Phillips, Miami guy who I like a lot. Javon Holland at safety, I think, not really a need for them at safety, I guess, according to what I was reading. So they could have gotten a tackle there or a guard, maybe. I mean, they have tackles, but I would maybe Tevin Jenkins is a guy I would have liked there. They do get Liam Eichenberg right after that, so I guess that kind of fixes that problem. And then Hunter Long at tight end. I actually like that pick for them because they have good receivers on the outside, so I like having a middle of the field kind of guy. So overall, I gave it a B.
They got an A for me. I really liked what they did. I think their first 5 picks will all have an impact. We'll all be able to play football for them. There's a lot of teams that had Jalen Waddle as their number 1 wide receiver. So it's not that out of belief for me to think that Miami didn't think. Now, here's what I truly think. I think they move up to 6 knowing, look, we're comfortable getting any of those 3. Whichever of those 3 falls to us, we're fine. We're okay with that. And I think that's what they went into going into 6 thinking. I love the Jalen Phillips pick. Javon Holland, it is what it is. I didn't have him as my number 1 safety, but I know a lot of teams did. He also has the versatility to play cornerback, so because he played it for an entire year there over at Oregon. So I think their positional versatility thing is going to help for them. Liam Eichenberg starts at guard like tomorrow, and I think is a great guard. So yeah, I like their draft a lot.
All right. The Minnesota Vikings, it's funny, I'm looking at my notes here. I gave them a B. And yet their first 2 picks didn't fit a need that they had. But Christian Darrisaw Bigger need was defensive end, pass rusher. I would have thought Owe or Rousseau, who were both there on the board at that time. And then Kellen Mond in the third round, who I guess is a nice, you can bring him up behind Kirk Cousins. So both Darisaw and Mond, I thought, were good picks, like you said, that they can use, but I just felt like they weren't two of their biggest needs. I still give them a B anyways, I guess, because I like those two picks.
I gave him an A. I think. Hey, sorry, my dog's being bad. I think tackle was their biggest need, truthfully. I love the Christian Darisaw pick. Not just that, I love the trade down to then still get a player that was more than likely in play at 14. Now, granted, if they didn't get a trade, I bet you they would have taken Elijah Vera Tucker. But still, I'm shocked you didn't give this team an A simply because they picked Wyatt Davis. Obviously we're big fans of Wyatt Davis. So I love him there. I love both the Pittsburgh edges that they picked, Patrick Jones and Jalen Twyman. So I don't know. I like what they did a lot. Kellen Mond, is going to be a guy that's going to have to sit and learn. And I think he's in a great spot to do it. And, Chaz Surratt, that's where you take a linebacker, in my opinion, and he's arguably going to have the same coverage impact as any of these other guys. He's a former quarterback. So he's only been playing linebacker for, I think it's 2 or 3 years, and the kid is just an athletic freak. So I loved what Minnesota did. I'm really happy with their draft.
On to the New
England Patriots. What we're going to go with here.
The New England Patriots, I gave them a B. They get Mac Jones at 15. They needed a quarterback. They didn't look super ecstatic picking him when they showed the draft from. They're kind of like, all right, are we doing this? We're doing it?
Yeah. Are we doing this right now?
But they did need a quarterback, and I have a lot of friends who are Patriots fans who were ecstatic that they got Mac Jones because they were hoping that he would fall to 15. I really wanted them to trade up and get Justin Fields. I think Christian Barmore, they traded up to get Christian Barmore in the second round. Again, he could have been a first-round pick, so I think that getting him in round 2 is great, and especially for them. He doesn't fit a need because they just got Anderson and they just got Godshaw in the offseason. Obviously, I think Barmore is better than both of those guys. So you can put him right in the middle. Their pass rush is fine. I loved the Ronnie Perkins pick with the supplemental pick in the third round. It was like the 33rd pick in the third round. Phenomenal talent. I think, obviously if he doesn't get busted for drugs, then, he's probably talking early second round pick. So again, great value for Bill in the first 3 picks. And then Ramondre Stevenson, who's probably going to take Sonny Michel's job as the first down back.
Yeah, I gave him a B as well. I like what they did. Mac Jones, we'll see. I think it was the right pick for the time, but I'm not the biggest Mac Jones fan. So, but yeah, Barmore and Perkins are just, I think great fits scheme wise. I think if there's anybody that's going to get the best out of Christian Barmore, it's going to be Bill Belichick. And then Ronnie Perkins, I think, is just a NFL ready pass rusher. So,
yeah. So a great draft for them. And then we go on to the New Orleans Saints, who get another F from me. They didn't really address a need in, was it rounds? Yeah, until round 3 when they took, was it Paulson Adebo, was it cornerback?
Paulson Adebo,
okay. Yeah, so they could have taken the, Trayvon Moore was there. They could have taken him. Elijah Moore makes sense there because they needed receiver. Malcolm Kuntz makes sense as an inside linebacker. They just passed on a lot of guys who would have filled needs for them. So I just gave him an F. Didn't love it.
Yeah, they got a D from me. Peyton Turner's, one of the bigger reaches in the draft. So I didn't love it. I like the player, but I don't love the place they took him. And then I like Werner and I like Paulson Adebo, but again, nothing special. And then Ian Book, how did he even get drafted? Ugh.
You got, I guess, your quarterback competition, right, with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. So,
yeah.
Except Taysom Hill's a tight end, so that's probably why they need a backup quarterback.
I guess.
The New York Giants, this one's for Nick. I gave them a D. They had 6 picks in the draft. The only position of need that they really addressed was outside linebacker with Azeez Ojulari in the second round, which I like that pick a lot, getting him in the second round. But again, they're one of those teams that had a need at center, guard, and tackle, and they didn't really address it.
I gave the Giants a B. I don't love the Kadarius Toney pick, but I do think it fills a need, and I do like the trade down because I'll always advocate for trading down. And then I do like the Aziz pick. Hopefully his knee is good to go. And then I love the Aaron Robinson pick. So yeah, I didn't, again, I didn't hate the draft, but not anything crazy, but I like a solid B there.
See, I didn't like the Tony pick because I felt like they had bigger areas of need to address. I mean, they just signed Galladay, they've got Slayton, they've got Shepard, right? They don't really need a fourth receiver. Yeah?
Yeah, I guess. But again, I've said it all the time. If Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard are stopping you from drafting a wide receiver, I mean, what are we even doing here? Like what kind of like those guys should not be stopping you from drafting a wide receiver. That's not moving. Neither of those guys are moving the needle. Neither of those guys are doing anything that Kadarius Toney can do. You know what I mean? So,
the New York Jets, I gave them a B. Obviously, they get their biggest hole in the whole offseason was a quarterback after trading Darnold. There was no surprise who they were taking. I think they drafted the guy who's going to start right away. Hopefully, they don't ruin him like they ruined Darnold. The trade up for Elijah Vera Tucker, love that. I love them trading up to get some offensive line help. I'm a huge fan of offensive line, drafting offensive line in the first round. And then they don't really pick again until round 4, and they get Michael Carter, who I think is really going to help them out at running back because that was another area of need. So I loved how they addressed all of their needs, not all their needs, but they addressed quite a few needs in the draft, and so I give them a B.
Did we talk about Minnesota?
Yeah, because you said Wyatt Davis. Surprised I didn't give him an A.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right. Sorry. All right. So the Jets, they got an A, in my opinion. I'm a big Zach Wilson fan. Have talked about it. Elijah Vera Tucker, I love it. I don't love giving up 2 third-rounders, but hey, man, if you get your guy, Elijah Vera Tucker now goes on the left side there and just absolutely locks it down, in my opinion, with Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker over there. Elijah Moore, I had as I think like the 25th best player or something like that. So to get him at 34, fantastic. I think he makes Jamison Crowder expendable, and then bam, that saves you $14 million in my opinion. So I like that a lot. Michael Carter, that's how you draft a running back. You wait to the 4th round, and then you take one there, and I think he can be a productive player. So yeah, I'm actually a big fan of all their picks. So I think they get an A in my opinion.
All right. The Philadelphia Eagles, I gave a B as well. They trade up with the Cowboys. They get Devontae Smith. They needed wide receiver help. He was paired with Jalen Hurts at Alabama. That's the big story, right? And then round 2, Landon Dickerson. Again, the Carson Wentz got absolutely buried last year, so any help you can get in the offensive line is a good pick for me. Milton Williams, defensive tackle, in the 3rd round. Again, I would have liked to have seen them getting Ben Cleveland or Wyatt Davis there to continue building on the offensive line, but overall, B for me.
I give him a C. I didn't really love it. I do like the trade down, especially to screw one of your own division rivals because the Giants were keen on Devontae Smith apparently, and that's who they wanted. So I do like that, but I'm not the biggest fan of Smith. I'm not in the camp that a 166-pound receiver can succeed. I do like Landon Dickerson. He'll more than likely start at guard and then be the eventual heir apparent to Jason Kelsey. So I like that. But again, nothing crazy, just to see.
All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers, now this is the team I can't wait to bury. If you are a fan of the black and gold, let me tell you something. They got a D. It wasn't an F, but they got a D. And taking Najee Harris in the 1st round, when, again, you have needs at tackle, guard, and center, and you don't address it in the 1st round when there are good tackles, guards, and centers on the board. Round 2, you take a tight end. Again, not addressing a need and not taking an offensive lineman. You finally get Kendrick Green in round 3. You get Dan Moore in round 4. Again, they could have gone Tevin Jenkins round 1, Creed Humphrey round 2, Ben Cleveland round 3, and then you could sign Todd Gurley as a free agent. He's still out there as a free agent. By the way, that's what happens to 1st round picks who are 26 years old. They end up free agents with 1-year deals for $1 million.
Yeah, they got a D for me as well. If you watch this show, we don't like running backs at all, really, much less in the first round. And then to take a tight end in the second when you have all these other needs. And don't get me wrong, I like Pat Freiermuth and I like Najee Harris. I think they're great players. They're great prospects. They have the ability to succeed. But again, it's the positional value. It's understanding where you are as a roster. And like, you know, they got so many holes to fill along the offensive line. Now, Kendrick Green, I absolutely love the pick. That's the only pick of their draft I like, but I love that pick. But outside of that, their draft was awful. So
the Seattle Seahawks, this one's for our boys on and off the field.
San Francisco?
They have San Francisco? Jeez, why
S-A-N is before S-E.
I don't know. Again, I'm blaming ESPN people. It's not me. I'm actually smart. I can spell, but I just was going in order. I wasn't even thinking. San Francisco, I gave a B. They get Trey Lance in round 1. He's going to sit for a year behind Jimmy G, unless Jimmy G gets hurt 3 games into the season. But that's the plan, is to have him sit for a year. I think it's a great pick. He's the heir apparent. He's going to be a starter next year. Next, they need a guard, which they get in round 2 with Aaron Banks. They don't draft again until the 39th pick of the 3rd round. They get cornerback Ambry Thomas. I don't know. Overall, I feel like they addressed needs that they had to address. San Francisco is a team that, without injuries and without the COVID, is probably a favorite in the NFC. And you just added your quarterback of the future and a starting guard.
Yeah, I didn't love their draft. I gave it a C. I like Trey Lance. Let's say I like the pick of Trey Lance. I'm not the biggest Trey Lance fan. I said it from jump. He's going to need a lot of help. Now, this is going to be an extremely player-friendly system. He's going to be able to learn. I think his attributes are going to fit what they do here. My only issue is he was bottom 5 in college in accuracy rate beyond 5 yards. He threw 37% of his passes beyond 5 yards were uncatchable. That's not a good stat. I don't love that stat. So, but outside of that, I don't hate the Aaron Banks. I don't like the Trey Sermon pick at all, but it is what it is. Getting a quarterback is always going to make your draft better, in my opinion. So,
all right.
Unless you're the Houston Texans and you take one in the 3rd round.
Now the Seattle Seahawks, I gave an F. They only had 3 picks. They take Dwayne Eskridge with their pick in the 2nd round, and they don't need a wide receiver. So, again, just a complete wasted draft for them.
I wanted to give him an F, but Stone Forsythe is, in my opinion, one of the steals of the draft. I mean, I have no idea how this kid lasted to the 6th round. He's battle tested in the SEC. He had incredible pass blocking grades through all years that he was starting, and I think he instantly starts for this team. So I'll give him a D, but I agree. When you only got 3 picks, like, why waste one on a Dwayne Eskridge? In my opinion, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I gave them an A. I said, again, they're bringing back all 22 of their starters. After signing those guys, they get Joe Tryon, outside linebacker. Kyle Trask is the quote-unquote heir apparent, right, to Tom Brady. He plays like Brady, right? He's big, not mobile. So that's going to be perfect to sit behind him and see if he can pick up some of Brady's study habits. Round 3, Robert Hainsey. Round 4, Jalen Darden. I guess I just liked all their picks. I didn't really have a problem with any of their picks.
Yeah, they got a B for me. Nothing like crazy out of this world. I don't love, the fact that we took a guy who opted out in Joe Tryon. But, it is what it is just because you haven't seen him play football in a year. So that sucks. You know what I mean? Also, half of his pressures, of his 41 pressures in 2019 were unblocked or cleanup pressures. So it's like that number's a little skewed. So it's like really he's only winning, he's only putting in 20 pressures. You know what I mean? When you think about that. But again, I like it. He's a guy who we're not going to need an impact from, just be a situational pass rusher and eventually replace. I like the Kyle Trask pick. I don't love it, but I like it. And then Jalen Darden's an absolute burner. The guy can fly. So, it should be a fun one.
Tennessee Titans, I gave a B. Their biggest need was wide receiver across from A.J. Brown. They didn't address it until round 4 with Dez Fitzpatrick. Caleb Farley is a great pick, but again, how's his back? Hopefully it's healthy and he can play. So it's kind of a risk pick there. Dylan Redun's in round 2. He fills a need. Elijah Molden at corner. Again, so they take another cornerback in the 3rd round. Overall, though, again, like I said, it's a B. It's they got better. I mean, not a whole lot I can negatively say about it.
Yeah, I gave him a B as well. It has a chance to be an A. If Caleb Farley turns out to be the top 10 player we all thought he was, this is obviously an A. They had to draft a tackle. I think that was their biggest need after the huge bust they had in Isaiah Wilson last year. I like Elijah Molden. I think he has the ability to be like a Mike Hilton and just immediately start. And I like Rashad Weaver that they got in the 4th round too. So overall, pretty solid draft from Tennessee.
And then our last team is the Washington football team. I gave them a B. I like Jamin Davis. Fills the role of inside linebacker. If it's a need there, he's athletic. He's going to go great, I think, with Sweat and Chase being able to pressure up the middle. Samuel Cosme, we all talked about him. We love the guy. Big, monstrous, left tackle, maybe right tackle, wherever you want to play him. They just fill needs. They got Diami Brown at wide receiver. Yeah. We kind of play that slot role with you got Samuel and you got Lauren, right? So McLaurin. And they didn't really address quarterback. That was their biggest need by ESPN was quarterback. I know Ryan Fitzpatrick's the starter. They got Henneke. You don't know what you have in him. There'll be a battle there in the offseason. But next year you're going to have quarterbacks again. There's like 3 or 4 quarterbacks that are going to be top 10 picks again next year. So, address the needs that you can this year.
Agreed. I think they did a great job this year. I gave him a B. It would have been an A, but it's again, if you're drafting a linebacker in the 1st round and it's not an edge player or it's not like again a Devin White or something like that, I don't love it. But with a team like without a ton of like huge glaring weaknesses, in my opinion, I mean, to add a guy like Jamin Davis to that front 7, which is already incredibly scary, is a great pick. Samuel Cosme, I'm probably his biggest fanboy. He was my, 4th overall tackle. I'd have taken him in the 1st round at 19. So, I mean, to get him at 51 is fantastic. Benjamin St. Juste is an absolute monster. The kid's 6'3", 80-inch wingspan. His short shuttle and 3-cone were both in like the 90th percentile. Like, the kid is everything you want, but he's a project. I think he's got like 400 career snaps at corner. And then Diami Brown's a burner. So, I mean, the kid's got legit speed that can get downfield and is going to be a dangerous weapon. So, overall, I like what Washington did. So, solid B.
And now the last thing for us to do is wait for the season to start, which I can't wait.
So excited.
Even preseason, I get all jazzed up for.
I know.
So it is a new intro or new extra, whatever you want to call it, exit sound that we got from here. This is our buddy Gregory Rousseau giving us a shout out for the
Buffalo
show.
Bill, Gregory Rousseau, baby.
Yo, what's up? Greg Russo here, telling you to check out Xfinity Sports. Wayne G keeps it real, and Sully breaks the draft prospects better than anybody else in the game. Download and listen, or watch on YouTube. Xfinity Sports, the #1 podcast in the country.